The topic today is going to be about disconnect. Are you mad at the roaster for telling you this is what you're going to be tasting in the cup of coffee? Do you truly really enjoy your cup of coffee for however many sessions that you do drink it? The disconnect is real. I don't know if we will ever be in a place where we can give you a recipe and it's exactly what you and I taste together. I think the jobs of a roaster, of a person who's providing you this cup of coffee, is to give you as much information about we live right now. And we're doing pretty good right now. I know sometimes when I talk about things, I try to have something to where it's extremely helpful and beneficial for you. And in this case, I believe I'm there. Let me explain. The topic today is going to be about disconnect. And what I mean by disconnect is like, what are you really getting out of coffee from a roaster, from a company that sells coffee and whatever? What I mean by that is that I have a cup of coffee right here, right? This one in particular is a dark roast. There's some notes in here. I can tell you to brew this at 180, 190 degrees Fahrenheit for however many minutes, how many pulses, whatever. And I'll tell you the tasting notes and all that good stuff. And now you have a benchmark of what you're actually tasting, right? But a lot of times when we talk about coffee, especially from somebody else's point of view, it is different compared to what we probably actually taste in a cup of coffee. I purposely put different things on the screen right now so we can kind of talk about it, because I've talked to many people before about this, and I've always asked them, so do you actually go by or review the things that's behind a bag of coffee? Meaning the roaster may say these are the particular notes in the coffee and this is what you're going to be tasting, and they'll give you a recipe for that particular coffee, right? But do you actually really taste those things? You have your own preference, you have your own tongue, or is it just a guide for you? Well, what is it for you? Because a lot of times when I think about certain things like different flavors that I probably get out of the cup of coffee, I'm coming at it from my point of view. And I'm one of the few that don't actually cup coffees as a roaster. And to me, that's another big disconnect. When people are tasting coffee, you know, even by me brewing the cup of coffee, I'm doing different things. For instance, I brew this cup of coffee with the AeroPress. I did a coarser grind to an extent. The brew was about 4 to 5 minutes long. I stirred it a little bit initially, and then I plunged it down. And I used this one-way valve apparatus, so to speak, thingy for the AeroPress. You may not have that. You may actually prefer to use paper filters. And as I talk and try to get you to understand what I'm actually tasting in the cup, you're probably not going to get any of those things for whatever various reasons. I also use third wave water. I will suggest that you use third wave water, but you may not. You may use tap water. You may use filter water. You may use alkaline water. You may use whatever water that you're using in order to make your cup of coffee. You may use the April brewer. You may have 4 or 5 pulses. You may do 2 pulses. You may do it at a different temperature, because that's really based off what you're customarily used to. Those are some of the things that I think about constantly. And I don't know if I'm just wacky and kind of crazy and just psychoanalyzing everything and trying to make sure that you are able to get the best out of the coffee as much as you can. Because that's really the game that we're playing here. It's like the disconnect, the communication. What are you really getting out of your cup of coffee? Are you mad at the roaster for telling you this is what you're going to be tasting in the cup of coffee and you don't get that whatsoever? Because a lot of times that's the things that I think about. Like, for instance, I use a Hario V60 probably about 80% of the time. Sometimes I'll use a switch if I want to kind of play around with recipes and stuff like that. Not as much, but I will at time use the French press. You may use the French press all the time. You may want to put the coffee through the espresso maker, whatever. It doesn't really matter. And I think that's where things can be a problem. Or is it a problem? Because at the end of the day, let's say I do tell you this is what I taste in the bag, and you don't necessarily get that when you go back to that particular roaster. Those are some of the stuff that matters to me. And I know this may sound a little selfish because I want to know from you of how you go about actually drinking, exploring, enjoying your cup of coffee. For instance, I think I did it a couple of while back ago, some videos or podcasts about a coffee that I've been trying. It's a Sumatran coffee. And I think this is a Sumatran too. But I brewed the cup of coffee. It wasn't doing anything for me. And then I brewed it a different way. Still wasn't doing anything for me. I tried different temperatures, different techniques, different recipes, all this crazy, wacky stuff. And I wasn't enjoying that cup of coffee. I wonder if you go through that too, to where that particular coffee didn't do it for you for whatever reason. And at the end of the day, I guess the reason why this is extremely important to me is because you spent the money for this particular coffee. You knew what you were getting yourself into. Or is it just part of the journey? Is that part of the situation that we're dealing with? Or is it so much of a disconnect? Since you are hopefully enjoying the video, you like, subscribe, because that's what I think about quite a bit. And as I drink these coffees currently that I have right now and throwing them through my paces of understanding and enjoying and figuring it out and conquering it or not conquering it, I don't know if I'm thinking about this too much. I'm too deep into the rabbit hole. Do you go through that stuff too? Because I think it does matter. Because at the end of the day, we're talking about enjoyment. Do you truly really enjoy your cup of coffee for however many sessions that you do drink it? Those are some of the questions that I think about. And as I sit here with this room temp coffee, it's not really gelling with me. It's not doing it for me. And that could just be the way coffee is at times. But I beat myself up about that because it's all about giving you the best product that you paid for. What kind of things do you think about when you actually drink that coffee? Because a lot of times, us being roasters, we go through this idea or logic is that we have to give them the best quality, the best presentation of this particular coffee. Because we're selecting it for whatever reasons. No matter what an importer may say about the tasting notes, we have an idea of what we're going to be doing with that coffee. But at times, I think the biggest thing, at least for me, is that I don't want to bullshit you. I don't think I bullshitted you at all. I think I've been extremely honest and upfront with my intentions and the things that I care about, the things that I look for when I make coffee or brew coffee or roast coffee. I think I've been very honest about that whole logic of like, what is it really saying? What are we really tasting? So those are some of the things that I constantly think about. And again, I don't know if I'm too far into the rabbit hole because it could be another roaster saying that this coffee is the shit. This coffee cost me so much money. So this is what I see in this particular cup of coffee. And you may not get that. And at the end of the day, you vote with your dollars. You vote with if you will like it anymore. So you go about your own journey in a way to where you'll probably start to lose trust into that roaster, into that person who's giving you that cup of coffee. And as you do that and try to understand them even more so, it's a disconnect. And I'm trying to see if the disconnect is something that we can mitigate as much as possible. Because I think it could be the issue is that we have so many different brewers, and then you're dealing with your own palate, the things that you like for whatever reason. That drives me crazy. That really does truly drive me crazy. But at the end of the day, it's one of those things to where we're just trying to give you the best product for whatever instrument that you're using in order to make your cup of coffee. I guess back in the day, it was a lot simpler. They just had a couple of items. This is what they were tasting. You drink it and you move on with your day. But now in this day and age, 2025, we have so many things. We have brewers, we have B60, we have a 70 whatever, 70 degree. We have even flatter than this. We have the April brewer. You know, we have different filters, fast filters, slow filters, normal filters, dark roast filters, medium roast filters, light roast filters. We have different types of French press. We have the mocha pot. We have the percolator. We have the automatic drip machine. People are using tap water, filter water, third wave water. They're making their own water. They have different gadgets that are a part of these specialty items right here to try to bring out the best in the coffee. Then the grinders, we have hand grinders, we have conical flat burrs and all that stuff. And we're all coming from it from a different angle and approach. And I think that's kind of like the crazy thing about it. That's a good thing, but it's also a crazy thing to realize that those are some of the frustrations that I'm getting at a lot of times whenever it comes to actually brewing that cup of coffee. That's crazy, right? We have all these things that we are basing our knowledge, our understanding, and our palates on. For instance, all these coffees for the past couple of weeks have been brewed mostly with third wave water. I think third wave water brings out some good clarity so you can actually decipher what you're tasting in a cup of coffee. And when you pair it with a decent grinder, now we're really talking about what is out there for us. But you may not have gone down that rabbit hole. You probably don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But as I talk about clarity and actually identifying the things that I'm tasting from hot to cold, depending on the grinder that you may have, your cups may be muddy. It may be muted. It may be to the point to where you're not getting any of the things that I'm telling you that you're getting. And like I said, we're not even talking about the way that that roaster identifies with that particular cup of coffee or the way they came up with those flavors. I'll tell you now, I come up with my flavors most of the time through the Hario V60 with paper filter, regular filter. Sometimes I'll use a fast filter. Some roasters, or most roasters, they're using a cupping protocol where the coffee is already kind of muddy and muted, at least to me, and they can get all these different flavors out of the cup of coffee. But you're probably not even tasting that. You're probably a filter person. So the disconnect is real. And I don't know if we will ever be in a place where we can give you a recipe and it's exactly what you and I taste together. And I think that's perfectly fine. But I do wonder if you get pissed or mad at the roaster for telling you something, whichever way that they're actually tasting it with their own unique palate of them enjoying and trying to explore the uniqueness of the coffee beyond the sell. Because at the end of the day, yeah, I truly do want to make money from the coffee that I roast. But I think majority of us are really excited about giving you a product to where it just stops you in your tracks. It gets you to think and ponder and to get to the place to where you feel excited about drinking this cup of coffee. So yeah, it's kind of interesting, right? I think so. So yeah, the disconnect is real. I think so. And I don't know if there's a solution really for it. I guess the only thing to tell you or to give you a better idea of what the situation is just to give you as much information as possible, letting you know the ways that we're actually brewing this cup of coffee, the way we actually probably roasted this cup of coffee, the way we prepared the coffee, the instruments that we're using in order to get the best out of this cup of coffee. Those are some of the things I think that will help you understand where we're coming from and probably even give you another go by in order to make your assessment on this cup of coffee. Probably is not just all about the Hario V60. Probably is at times about the mocha pot or the French press. But again, I don't want to get too deep into that rabbit hole of like making sure that we account for everything. At the end of the day, I think the jobs of a roaster, of a person who's providing you this cup of coffee, is to give you as much information about the origin, how it was actually processed, and our approach to this particular coffee, our roasting and brewing philosophies, the things that we wanted to bring out of the coffee, and the way that we actually brew it. And then from there, you can make your judgment or assessment to see if you want to pick it up, to see if you can probably get the things out of the things, to see if you can get the things out of what this person is telling you that you will probably get. I think that's where we can be with this. Let me know what you think about this. Do you think about that too? Do you get sometimes a disconnect when a roaster tells you these notes? You don't get anything whatsoever like that, even by using the exact same type of gear, applications, and all that stuff as the roaster, you know? So that's what I got for you. Let me know what you think. Talk to you later. Bye. Since you are hopefully enjoying the video, if you like, subscribe,